So Nikki in her ITM, she said she is pissed. She said because Sean just wants to win. He wants to look good on TV. He wants to just have this moment. And it's really not about her. And that's a horrible feeling. Hey y'all, it's your girl Jane B, and welcome back to my channel, seejanereacts. So y'all know we are still reviewing Married at First Sight season 20 Seattle. There's a lot going on. Who gonna make it on decision day? We don't know yet, okay? But we're gonna go ahead and get into episode, my notes, 8, romantic sparks and question marks. Okay, let's go. So we start off the episode with Devin and Caitlin going on a paddleboard ride. And I was like, oh, I would be scared. Because it don't seem like there's nothing holding you. Just there on the paddleboard. But, it looked like it was fun. They seemed like they were, cool. It was like a nice bonding moment, and I'm happy for them. So then once they got to a certain landing, they got off and had a picnic. After they stopped for the picnic, they was ready to recap because, the dinner was the night before. So that's when all the tea came out. So, you have to debrief, especially when you with your partner. Listen, get yourself a partner you could gossip with, because they were like, okay, so let's talk about last night, yada, yada, yada. And so she was telling him, she was extra touchy because she didn't want him to feel bad, because she knows that's not her natural go-to. And I'm starting to get the feeling that even though Devin is starting to understand and starting to see her side as well, you can see that it really does bother him, because I know they talked about his light being dimmed, at one point. And I could see that, because it went from this optimism of being with someone and being, in love and touching and hugging and all the things. And the fact that he's getting none of that. So even though he's learning to work with her, you could see his light is starting to dim. So even with all that, they did talk about the strides that they were making in their relationship. Tori and Felipe, they met with Felipe's parents, Anna and Paulo, and they brought a nice little spread, and they were just talking about the relationship. Tori was letting the parents know, you raised a great son, and he was just like, thank you so much. And the mother was gushing. The mother really likes Tori, and the father likes her too. So then in an ITM, Felipe was talking about, he's very physical touch. And he was saying that by now in his previous relationships, the physical touch would have, already been off the charts. But then he has to remember, you just met this person. Like, they didn't know you at all before. And you even still have physical intimacy. So slow your roll, Felipe. He said he's giving her the space that she needs, but he's afraid that the passion is going to run out. So, it seems like Felipe likes that newness, because he said once the passion runs out, he's going to have a feeling like he needs to run. So Anna and Tori, they go out on the balcony to speak. And, Anna lets her know that we have a very close family. It's very close, like Felipe can call her any time of the day or night, and she would be there. And then she extended that same courtesy and grace to Tori as well. So Felipe is inside talking to his father, and he said he struggles with monogamy, but he really wants to make it work. And then the father was giving him some encouraging words. And I don't know if anyone ever got a chance to speak to Felipe, just to let him know, everything is not about hot passion fire. I mean, if that's where he is, that's fine. But then that has to be a part of his reality too. Like, okay, this is what I want. I want hot passion fire all the time. But then he did say he was lonely as well, because yes, you get the physical needs, but after a while you do want somebody you can speak to, somebody you can trust, someone that you can feel safe with them. So that's his struggle. He said he's so afraid he's going to mess it up. And I do understand that feeling as well. Like, oh my God, this is so amazing. But I think that's where he has to learn to just sit in the present moment of what it is, and stop worrying about what it will be, what may happen in the future. Just deal with where you are right now. Because it seems like, even though he has his issues with monogamy and things of that nature, that aside, let's just put that aside for the moment. The actual relationship that he has with her is really good. So he has to decide, is this what I want? Is having a good relationship worth it? Or is fool-la-la with the other women worth it? What's the choice? Make a decision. So Nikki and Courtney. So Nikki and Courtney are in their apartment and they're talking, and Nick is making guacamole in this half pineapple. I was loving that. I was like, yes, it looks so good. And so they were talking, and they were talking about movies. And y'all, how's you, Courtney? Because she did not know who Keanu Reeves was. And I'm like, what? Have you, even if you're younger, like much younger, because I think isn't Courtney about 28-ish? You don't know who Keanu Reeves is? You never heard of The Matrix? You've never heard, okay, The Matrix is a little older, okay. But really? So he was like, listen, that may change his decision on decision day. Just her not knowing Keanu Reeves. Because I was like, what? Anyway, she's like, no, I don't watch TV. What is that? I was like, okay, girl. Nick says he does not know where he stands in this marriage. He said he's really not clear. It's hot and cold with, Courtney. And he just wants some reassurance of, where they are in the relationship. She says she's happy that he wants to work things out. But then in the back of her mind is that fear of him leaving. That's the theme. That's the theme this season. Will they leave? So this is the thing, right? So you're wondering, will they leave? But what are you doing to ensure they stay? Or what are you doing to make sure you're putting your best person forward so you have no regrets if they leave? Because to me, that fear and that anxiety, that's what you're going to keep attracting, that uncertainty. That's why there's so much uncertainty and I'm sure a little bit of unhappiness because there's just no clarity. Like, it's just like, I'm just so afraid. And so you're living from that place. You're living from the place of fear. And living from that place is not going to bring any joy. It's not going to bring any happiness. And if anything, it's going to be like, I'm undecided and I'm not going to choose you. That's what's going to happen because nobody wants to feel like their person is just unsure of who they are and what they want. Courtney says she feels like she's never been loved and she's never been in a loving relationship. So this is probably freaking her out because I'm sure in the back of her mind is like, okay, I've only been in like not so great situations. Is this going to be that as well? And unfortunately, she just has not grasped or has the tools to understand how to live in the moment. I think that's one of her biggest issues because she's always overthinking and thinking ahead as opposed to just staying in the moment. Nick reassures her, don't worry because I do want someone that will challenge me. And he feels like Courtney challenges him. But he said, but be nice. Because Courtney, we know you could be a little hard. You could be a little harsh. And so she's just telling him, she's just glad he hasn't left because she knows that she does self-sabotage. So Nikki and Sean, it's time for their one-on-one counseling session. Nikki arrives first. Sean comes later. It seems like that's the theme with them. But then after the dinner, we saw they got into a heated discussion because they were talking about, Nikki was like, you threw me under the bus. You didn't stand up for me, all the things. So they went their separate ways. So we just glad that they made it to the counseling session. Okay. So Nikki in her ITM, she said she is pissed. She said because Sean just wants to win. He wants to look good on TV. He wants to just have this moment. And it's really not about her. And that's a horrible feeling. She said he wants to charm the room. And she's really questioning, do I really want to be with him? So Paul asked them to rate their marriage. He said, okay, where are you in your marriage? And Nikki said, well, it's quite low. I'm going to give it a 2. And then Sean said a 7.5. That's delusion. That is delusion because a 2 and a 7.5, Sean, that means you're not even locked in and understand what's going on. Because for your partner to feel like she's at a 2, that means you don't even know what's going on. You're just in your own world, your own scenario, your own situation. Like you just want to charm and win. And how could you be that end of the spectrum, those ends of the spectrum? A 2 to a 7.5? And then Paul said what I just said. Y'all are in 2 different relationships, clearly, because this ain't right. Nikki says she doesn't feel heard. She doesn't feel seen. She doesn't feel valued, nor does she feel respected. So then Sean replies, to Nikki, and Paul's like, wait a minute. You're not holding space. You sound like you're giving a dissertation. I think with Sean, I think Sean is hung up on his big words, his big vocabulary, his big education. And he thinks that that's going to save the day, and it doesn't. Sometimes a simple I'm sorry can take you miles ahead. You're talking about because of this and the that and the that and the that and then I see this and I see that and ain't nobody want to hear that. Because while you doing all that, she is checked all the way out. So he was just like, okay, Paul was like, we need to bring it back. We need to do this again. So now Paul gives them pointers so that they could really hear and understand each other. John is saying that, he really hates to show his vulnerable side because he feels like he always has to have a plan. And that always needing a plan is really to protect yourself. So now Paul gives them exercises to become closer. Paul wants them to rate the relationship every day using the tools that he gave them. Michelle and Cameron are at a pottery place. They're painting pottery. And so they're having a good conversation. They always seem to have nice, good conversations. And she was talking about how she's good with money and how it was important when she was going through the process that she was with someone who makes $150,000. And Cameron was like, and he was cool about it. He was like, well, I don't make that. He is a coach at a college in Oregon. And he said that, right now he's doing good. The team did good. And he said he could see him improving, his salary improving, as the team, gets better every season. And so she said, she did feel a way about that. And I think what she learned from that is, although, yes, that was important to me on paper, but at the end of the day, this man makes me feel safe. He makes me feel seen. And the money, listen, as long as you guys are not sleeping on the street, as long as he's in a situation where he is bringing something to the table, she said that's something she could work with. And she really understood that. Like, she really got it. Like, wait a minute, is this really important? Am I about to blow something that's really amazing because he doesn't make 150? Because let me tell you, newsflash, you can get with somebody who makes $1 million a year, but that don't mean, number one, they're going to share it with you. Number two, that doesn't mean that they are going to value you. That doesn't mean that they're going to give you this opulent, amazing life. It really means nothing. It just means that they make the money. What you want is somebody with heart, someone with integrity, someone with morals that shares morals with you. That's what you want at the end of the day. And, as a result, it did emasculate him. He did feel really emasculated by that conversation, but he was just like, listen, it's okay if my woman makes more than me. He did not seem intimidated, but I guess he still felt emasculated, by the question. Because really, truly, I guess that's a conversation that could have come up. But when you say my requirements were, or you could have said maybe, this is what I make normally, like this. I think there's ways she could have worded it where it didn't seem like, these are my standards, and I'll take nothing less. Okay. So I think because of that is why that emasculation, really came about. But then it seemed like she immediately listened. She got up close to him under that cover. That seemed to be their space. And they just started talking and, she made her piece and he made his piece. And then they seemed to be okay. Becca. So Becca is at their one-on-one counseling session with Dr. Lisa. And she's basically just asking them how they're doing. She was like, oh, I can see you're comfortable. Because she said Becca is, she's sitting in the folds of, Mecca's arms to let her know that they are comfortable. And she asked him how it was going. And he said, it's going really well, like super well. And you can see it because they almost seem like the same person. They kind of do. They really do. Mecca says that his childhood issues and his childhood trauma really scares him. And that's what led to that ridiculous question. Y'all know the question. The question of, how much percentage do you like me? He doesn't have a mother or a stepmother. I don't know if he sees it yet that I'm sure his father was a big problem or his father played a big role in that. I don't know if he's there yet because at this point, that's all he knows is his father as a parent. But you have to start saying, no, wait a minute. If they both left, it can't be both of them. It got to be, what's the common denominator? Logic, the father. So I don't know that he's there yet to really delve deep into that conversation. They say the more they're around each other, the attraction does increase. So Dr. Lisa said, well, do y'all like make out? Like, do y'all have, hot make out sessions? And he was like, well, no, not really. So they don't have make out sessions, but, he will kiss her hand, kiss her forehead and things like that. And then Dr. Lisa said, well, I kiss my kids on the forehead. Basically, she was saying, that's nice. And there's nothing wrong with that because I like a forehead kiss too. There's nothing wrong with the forehead kiss, but I think the point was, even though the forehead kiss was cute, you need to have more intimacy because I think she was saying that I don't want it to go into the friend zone. to where y'all are just friends and y'all are best buds, but there's no chemistry. So Dr. Lisa says, listen, Belgia has given you the green light. Why are you not going through the light? It's not red, it's not yellow, it's green. So then Mecca lets us know. He said, I have a lot of sexual anxiety. I guess just the fear of, will I be good? Because, no one wants to feel rejected. But this is the thing. Y'all are brand new to each other. It's a lifetime of learning what one likes, what one doesn't like. Touch me here, touch me there. Speak now, don't speak. All those things can be learned. But he says he has a lot of anxiety. And Dr. Lisa said, listen, get out of your way. He said he cares so much about being judged and about being hurt. And she understood that. But then she was like, listen, go ahead and make out tonight. Just go ahead and touch and make out. Just start there. And they were like, okay. And then that ended their session. Marissa and Adam. So they go now to Marissa's place, and she has a beautiful apartment condo. I'm not really sure what it was, but it was gorgeous. It was very muted tones, very clean, very nice. And she was concerned. She was like, whew, I don't know if I'm doing enough, because, Adam, his place got all the things in it. Okay, very eclectic. And she was like, well, here I am. And he's like, oh, no, this is really nice, and yada, yada, yada. And so then she said, I got a surprise. And she pulled out the paintbrushes, and they actually painted each other. And I have to tell you, Marissa's painting actually looked good. It actually looked like Adam. Now, Adam, he painted her like red stone, like red, like really red with big teeth. I don't know what that was. She was like, this is our first fight, because that did not look like her at all. So anyway, they start discussing about like where they would live and, how would that work? How do they see that? He says he does not want to live in the city. And he did say that they could, live in the lake house and save money and then make a purchase. And she still feels like she doesn't really know 100% what she wants 100%. But that was the start, of the conversation. So Nikki and Sean, now that they got their tools, they now are back at the apartment, and Nikki cooks him dinner, and the dinner, it looked okay. I mean, it looks all right. So she made him dinner, but apparently it tasted good. So, they were eating. She poured him some, I think, whiskey, and they were sitting close to each other. I was happy to see that. And they were smiling a little more. And it seems like they're really implementing the tools, that was given to them. Now, how long will this last? Because to me, when you have such a strong personality, I'm like, well, one session, is that going to be enough? But we'll see, because it seems like they were getting along. They were talking more. She let him know that she wants him to be the leader. And he was just like, you know what? He's just recognizing he needs to fall back, and he's going to let her, be in charge of the things she needs to be in charge of. Nikki says that, she thinks like in a world of one. And I get that. If you are a very independent person, you've been living alone, you make a great salary, I'm sure you have great friends, and you probably live a really great life, that's your world. So she said, that's where she comes from. And so that's where like a world of one. So you're mixing that with the ego. That's a lot of their problems. That's like the biggest thing with them. They both recognize that egos are good in certain situations because they're both Black. They're both highly, they have high positions, and, they come in the room and sometimes they're underestimated. So they were both saying having an ego is great for those environments, but having an ego in your relationship is no bueno. It's not going to work. So that's good that they even recognize that. We see Adam and Marissa back at her place. She's getting a massage. Adam is pouring half the bottle of oil on her body. I said, ooh, she's going to be slicked down. Them sheets about to be messed up. And the cats were there. And she said, ooh, I don't know if I'm used to having the cats there. But anyway, she got her massage, and, that was that. Nikki and Courtney were at the gym, doing their workouts. And so she was going to do some pull-ups. And he was like, I can help you up. And she was like, I just want you to know I don't do PDA at the gym. And it's like, girl, could you relax? It's just like you are always just in your head. The man, all he did was lift her up, because it's the high. I mean, I don't know how she would get up there normally, but it was like the high bar, and he lifted her up. And that's not PDA. PDA is kissing, hugging, doing the most, helping her exercise. He didn't do that. He just lifted you up just to make sure you're okay. That's it. Relax, Courtney. Relax. Devin and Caitlin go to her spin class where she was doing her spin. That class looked good. Now, I'm not good at spin. I've tried it. Child, one little turn, I'm like, whew, I'm exhausted. But she was going, I'm sure the music was popping and they were doing all the, doing all the, all the things. And then after, so it was Caitlin, Devin, and two of her girlfriends, and they were talking, about, Caitlin and everything. And now, my opinion, her friends, and I do understand having hard friends, just to, to give him like a hard time to make sure he is who he is. But they was a little kind of like, they was a little too much for me. Like, they were talking, they were cool overall, but they were like, yeah, because, she's very independent, because it's like, you're not helping her with her case. He knows she independent, but now y'all are just reiterating it. And then one of the friends was like, yeah, because I was away from my husband for a month and he needed to still be away. And I was like, yeah, go for it. Meanwhile, Devin is looking horrified because he's just like, this is because remember, Devin likes quality time. He likes touch. He likes words of affirmation. And that's anti your man is away for a month and you okay with it. And he just was like, oh my God, yikes. So then he says, let me go to the bathroom. I think that's code word for let me let y'all talk. He steps away and the girls are like, oh, I like him, even though they were rough. But I just want to know, like, his hair, like, why, we're not like young. Like, why does he have that hair? And I like his hair. Okay, I like Devin's hair. Why y'all don't like it? And then I'm thinking, that's the least of your worries, because hair is nothing but a change. You could change that literally in one setting, but you want to make sure that the person's a good person. But overall, they do like them because she said she really values their opinion. We'll grow out of that too, because after a while, don't get me wrong, people have opinions and you trust people's opinions, but we're not living for someone's opinion because they're telling you stuff from their point of view, not always from your point of view. Remember that. Michelle and Cameron are getting ready, because now work, I think, is the next day. And she talks about how, when she was a little girl, she just remember like Mondays was not a good day, because that meant the weekends was over and you're back at work. And so Cameron is getting ready to go because he has to hit the road. So they talked about each other's schedules, and it seemed like his schedule wasn't bad. Honestly, he said he goes down on Monday, come back on Tuesday, go back on Wednesday, and he's here for the rest of the weekend. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So to me, it sounded like a good deal. And so they just talked about texting styles. And I was like, that's it seems like a mundane conversation, but that really is a real thing. Like, so how do you text? Are you a texter? Do you do good morning text? Do you do good night text? And that is something that you need to talk about, because it's like they don't know up until now because they've been together this whole time. So they really did come to a good conclusion of like their texting styles, their communication styles. And she said she was going to miss him and he's going to miss her too. And I felt that. Becca. Now Becca is back in the apartment. She's, getting ready for the night. She probably, washed up, put on her moisturizer, getting all ready. Becca over there, Mecca's over there lighting candles. I was like, okay. So then now they get in the bed together with the robes. Very uncomfortable. They had the robes on, getting under the cover, and now they were talking. I said, and they done skipped all the Dr. Lisa steps, okay, about making out. They said, no, how many kids you want? We're going right for the gusto. So they started talking about kids. He said he wanted 2 kids. She said she wants 4 or however many the Lord will bless her with. He was like, yikes. Okay. So they were like, okay, well, he said, I'm trying to make one tonight. Okay. He needed permission. So next thing you know, he said, they got up under the cover. He said, I don't have nothing up on under this robe. So it was on and popping from there. You already know. So now Nikki and Courtney are on their way. They're doing a road trip to Portland to see Courtney's family. What surprised me, as much as they are workout people, it surprised me that they have those lollipops in their mouth. I was like, are they sugar-free lollipops? Like, what kind of lollipops are those? So anyway, so now they're on the way, and he said, I think he said something like, let's rock and roll. And already my grandmother used to say that. Courtney, there's always something. Did anything just go with the flow? Is there always a situation? Is something always the problem with everything? Now the grandmother done said something, and what he said remind you of the grandmother. And now she don't want him to say. It's just, that's already weird me out. Anyway, so they're on their way. So now they get out the car, and before then they were talking about would you move to Portland? He was like, no, because he was like, that's not really where I'm trying to be, and she was like, well, if we had children, I would want to be closer to my family. And he's like, yikes. Okay, yikes. So anyway, so now they're driving, they get to the parents' house, and they're holding hands, and she goes, we gotta let go hands, because they're gonna make fun of us. Because she did say that her parents were not affectionate. She did say she didn't really see that growing up, but oh my God, I don't think Nick picking her. Because even though Nick said, listen, I know reality TV. I'm going to do this for the show. I'm doing this for the show because I'm not going to make myself look bad. So I'm going to make sure I do what I need to do to make sure we look good on TV. But I'm not picking her because it just seems like it's never a good moment. It just seems like and maybe that's just all they're showing us. Now, I will say that because they do edit it to form a narrative to make us all think a certain way. Because the way I'm thinking right now is, my God, girl. So anyway, they get in the house now. Nikki, Miss Unaffectionate, she runs to her sister and leaps into her arms like it's The Bachelor. You know how they, on The Bachelor, they run up and hug and wrap the arms. She wrapped her arms around her sister. And I mean, they just, oh my God, my sister, my sister, my sister, my sister. So that was it. It was the parents there. I think she has two brothers, or at least one brother. But anyway, and the brother's name is Nick as well. So, they were just talking, about, just life and everything that's been going on. And so when she's alone with her sister, she's just like, I want you to grill him. I want you to do this and do that. And the sister's like, okay, but the sister's way chill. The sister is way more chill than Courtney. And the sister was just like, okay, let's see. And so now they're having dinner together. Now, side note, what is up with mama's hair? Her mother's hair, the hair and the face. They look like they tan a lot because that father was definitely giving you that orange glow, that sun glow. But the mother, it looks like her look is very interesting to me. I just will say that. Because that hair was pompadour. I guess she knew they was on their way. That face was on, but it just looked like a lot. But anyway, so, they wanted him to grill him. And finally, the sister said, girl, you want me to say something bad, but it ain't nothing bad to say. Like, why can't you understand that? Because then when Courtney got into the ITM, she was like, well, they say that maybe because they're not with him all the time. And then she said, but then I could be wrong. Girl, you doing way too much. That's Courtney's name, way too much. Courtney is doing way too much. You are looking for something to be wrong, and your sister said there's nothing wrong. And then Mama revealed something that we all knew. She said Courtney's pretty rigid. So they know their child. She's super rigid. And that's what it is. It's like, that's the thing. She's just super rigid. And she probably, like, how was she when she was with her girlfriends? I would love to see that. I would love to see Nikki in a situation where she's just with friends that she trusts and she's just letting her hair down. So anyway, ciao. So that was the end of that. Let me see if there's anything else they said. Hold on. That was pretty much it. I mean, they had the meal. Everybody seemed fine. The family seemed fine. So now it's up to Courtney to get her life. So anyway, y'all, that was the end of the episode. Interesting episode. Good episode. They're all good. And listen, y'all already know, if you made it this far, put an orange heart in the comment section, okay? So thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you so much if you made it this far. I totally appreciate you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And until the next time, peace.